All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're hopping into game number 2 of this ZvZ as we spawn down here on the bottom right-hand corner of the map on top of the player representing Team Red Wolves, the Brazilian Zerg. Give it up for Erik, sitting up 1-0. And his opponent spawning up here in the top left-hand corner of the map, we have the red Zerg player from Mexico. Give it up for Cham. I think a lot of people in the chat also saying right now, yeah, look, Cham didn't have a lot of larva at the end of that last game. Kind of makes sense that he wasn't going to be able to hold over there. I guess the way that I was looking at it was, you know, you're only sitting down like 9 roaches to 5, and you got 3 hatcheries. You got the potential to, even if you don't have, I mean, you're down 5 roaches. You have queens that you can pull. You can pull maybe some drones. You can even afford to sacrifice maybe like 10 to 15 workers before falling down further behind your opponent, and you have the potential to eventually get out some more of those roaches. But Cham just didn't have the larva, and I guess that was a bit too much, so he ends up losing that game in a situation that he seemed like he was maybe just going to be setting himself up for a much further ahead later stage of the game. But let's talk, I want to address something again because people keep asking about this in the chat, and Rifkin is in the chat, by the way. But people are wondering, why isn't Rifkin casting? Why isn't Zombie Grub casting? Well, Rifkin and Zombie Grub, obviously as part of Base Trade TV, end up casting a ridiculous amount. So I joined Base Trade TV. They recently invited me to join on in to help them out and cast a little bit more for them so that they are not completely killing themselves, and that also lets them run more events. But here we go, we got a couple of Zergans moving in over here, just going for the early scout and everything. But yeah, my name is Fear Dragon, in case anyone's wondering. I am the 4th member of Base Trade TV, and that was a nice drone kill over there from Erik. Pretty well done, and he's gonna be able to get a nice little scout off into the main base, maybe be able to pick off another drone. Gets very close, doesn't quite manage to get the kill over there though. And it looks like the remaining Zerglings do get killed off, and Cham able to take those fast, very fast 3rd expansion. Now this is Dust Towers, so not super surprising. And oh, we have something killed over there. Okay, I learned about this worker structures lost tab on Base Trade TV and from Alima League today. I didn't realize this either, so thank you for the find, Rifkin. Structures lost, Shift K. Apparently it doesn't show canceled structures, unfortunately. That would be really nice. But yeah, it looks like something was canceled. I wonder if Cham is maybe delaying that roach horn a little bit longer, or maybe he was going for the baneling nest and decided to cancel it and say like, hey, let's hold off on that for a little bit. He does have 2 gas geysers as natural expansion, going for a gas geyser in his main base as well, so could be going up for a fast lair tech, maybe a fast Mutals play. I know a lot of Zerg players have really been enjoying that Mutals play, but oh, we got a baneling nest coming out over here for Cham, so not going to be going up to that very fast roach tech once again. And here we go, lair tech coming out, 4th gas geyser coming down for Erik. He is probably going to, yeah, go for this 3rd expansion over here after the Zergling does get cleaned up. But I mean, this is already a little bit of a reveal for Cham, saying, okay, your 3rd expansion was a good bit later than mine, like fairly later. So what were you doing with all of those resources? One of the intuitive things is going to be, my opponent may have been going for a faster lair tech. Is he going to be prepared for something like that? Baneling nest coming out, maybe just preparing and saying like, okay, look, I may be up against a lot of aggression. I need to be prepared. He's not throwing down a roach one. I want to note that because he does look a lot like he wants to go for a big spire play. Cham getting up his own lair tech as well, but has that roach horn finished up. And you know, if you can defend against the spire play, if you can defend against any sort of Mutals that could be coming out, then he's going to be setting himself into a great position. But oh, lair tech for Erik is finished up, and there is the spire. And I actually really like this positioning because you think about where our overlord's going to be coming in, where our overseer is going to be coming in to scout. Well, they're all going to be coming in from this side of the map, so he's going to have to make his way all the way through the main base. Maybe he'll have to make his way in through the 3rd expansion, maybe behind the 3rd expansion, but it's all things that are going to make it very difficult to scout out this spire tech placement. So just cute little thing. I actually really like this placement. Cham though, making his 2 overseers on the other side of the map, looking for an opportunity, and oh, one of these overseers may get killed off. Nope, just barely managed to survive, and it does get back full health. Throws down a Changeling. The Changeling may be able to get the scout off on the spire. That's actually really nice if he does manage to get that. But does get killed off. I mean, I'm kind of exaggerating the importance of like scouting out the spire. I feel like Cham does have some signs that he should know. Oh my god, great baneling hit over there. Whoa, Cham really setting himself up to be in a good position to defend against any kind of aggression, because with all those Zerglings killed off, he doesn't have to really invest as much into making more banelings, although he is making a couple more. Oh no, sorry, that's Erik making a couple more banelings, but we end up seeing Overseer coming on in, doesn't scout out the Spire, but again, Cham should have some indications. He's actually making a couple more queens. So going to be going up to 4 queens. That's going to help out a little bit. And going for a Nidus Worm. Now, if this Nidus Worm finishes up around the time that the Spire finishes up and is making those Mutalisks and the Mutals get across the map, this could get really, really awkward because Cham is going to be able to put on the aggression. And these Mutalisks may not even be in the right side of the map to deal with this. The Roaches may just be able to do massive amounts of damage before the Mutalisks actually manage to do a whole lot. Mutalisks are now out on the map, and oh, this is a little bit awkward. Gonna be able to kill off some of these banelings that Cham made, as well as start to whittle away at the Roaches. This is turning into a bit of an awkward situation. Erik doing a lot of damage with these Mutalisks, and these Roaches are not gonna be able to get in and do a lot of damage just yet. Sure, there's not exactly a lot of Roaches or something out for Erik, but the Queens and the Roaches, they get picked off, and the Mutalisks, they're gonna be able to clean up and move across the map. It's not even Spore Crawlers down in the main bases for Cham. 3rd expansion completely dry for Spore Crawlers. Finally gonna be throwing down a few of them, and I think some of these Spore Crawlers will be finishing up in time for Cham's defense, but this is really awkward. Erik gonna be able to supply block Cham potentially? No, okay. No, Cham has plenty of Overlords, at least for a little bit. He's gonna have to kill off at least 2 more Overlords if he wants to supply block Cham. But this is already enough to see as a total map control. He gets a scout off on things. He's going to be able to kill off a couple of Roaches, kill off a Spore Crawler that's building, kill off a Queen here and there. Cham is really going to be relying on just that Queen count. And behind this, I want to note, Roach Warren is going up over here for Erik. He is gearing up for the later stages of the game. He's shutting down that map control, and now the only vision that Cham has is of his own bases, and that is a very, very difficult situation to be in, because you want to know when your opponent is making more units, when they're going to be pushing across the map, when they're going to be going for the all-out aggression and halting, taking expansions and all kinds of stuff like that, if they're going for a counterattack. Oh god, losing more of these Overlords. He's taking a lot of damage on these Mutalisks right now to the Queens, and even putting himself in an awkward position between these Spore Crawlers, but he takes out so many of the Overlords that he does end up supply blocking Cham, despite the fact that Cham went for a ridiculous number of Overlords. And, well, 4th expansion being taken down behind this for Cham. Or, sorry, for Erik. And the Roach count is not exactly ridiculous right now for Cham. He can't even make more Roaches until just now. He does start that Hydralisk production. Hydral is going to be very, very helpful against these Mutalisks, but he needs to get them out in a high enough number they can deal with them. If he can at least even defend the Hydrals as they come out with the Queens, it's going to be in a much, much better position. But you have to remember also, these Spore Crawlers, they don't do as much damage as they used to versus these Mutalisks. 30 damage versus the massive amount of damage they used to do. So it does take about 4 or 5 hits, as depending on if the Carapace upgrade was researching. It's not. But it does take quite a few shots for these Mutalisks to actually end up dying. 4th expansion gets canceled, though. Erik is in complete control and domination of this game as he's starting to lead up the supply, even without having a lot of Roaches out, as he's starting to pump some of these out. Actually, he may have already overtaken Cham. Yeah, he's already overtaken Cham in that Roach count. 22 Roaches to 7. He is, of course, going to be dealing with the Hydrals as well, so that is where a lot of Cham's resources have gone, and of course, Lurkers are also coming out as well. So it's not entirely over for Cham just yet. He can still take a great engagement, but with a much, much later 4th expansion, without that air superiority, without that map control, Cham is definitely looking to be in an awkward situation. Ooh, I see a lot of Cham supporters in the chat. A lot of these people, maybe from you Mexicans out there, hoping that Cham can show a little bit of love for his country and be able to take this, but it's looking a bit difficult. That his Carapace upgrade gets very close to getting taken out, but he does save it just in time with some of these Hydralisks. Gonna be able to finish up +1 Carapace. That's nice. Looks like he has +1/+1 finished up versus +2. No, Cham has +2/+1 finished up. So Cham does have a nice little upgrade lead, I guess, for his Roaches and Hydralisk. He did start up those Roaches and Hydralisk a little bit earlier than Erik as well, so it kind of makes sense that he would be a bit further ahead in those upgrades. But the question is, how does Cham bring this back? Well, first of all, he's got to make use of these lurkers and the fact that he has a much better army in terms of direct engagement than Erik. Because Erik has, yeah, a lot of these roaches. The roaches are going to be very tanky. Even the Ravager is going to be very useful. But he doesn't have any of these Hydrals. The Hydrals as well as the lurkers, if they can get into a good position where they aren't being wailed on by the roaches, he's going to be able to do a massive amount of damage very quickly. That's his big advantage. So he has to try and find a way to make use of that advantage. That means that he maybe wants to be either the one on the defensive, which it looks like he's kind of trying to do right now, or he wants to be the one on the aggressive, but find a very nice aggressive position that Erik has to engage into to defend an expansion or something. Is one of the two is what I feel like he has to do. But with the Vipers coming out for Erik, this could complicate things quite a bit. A couple of good blinding clouds thrown down on either the lurkers or even just a clump of those Hydrals could really complicate things, as well as the fact that, well, we have more tech coming out from both these players. Hive Tech finishes up over here for Cham, but Hive Tech already finished up for Erik. He's getting up that Ultra's Cavern, which is a funny situation. I think that Base Rate TV has casted, Rifkin and Zombie Grove casted a ZvZ where they ended up having Ultralis versus Ultralis, and the problem was neither of the Ultralis really died very quickly. It became a very long, drawn-out engagement where it was almost a matter of which Ultralis can do more damage to the other side's economy or buildings or whatever before anything else happens. You know, the Mutalisks, now that we're starting to see Erik get close to maxed out, they are kind of questionable supply, but here we go. Erik is looking for that engagement. He's looking to cancel that 5th expansion that he has set up right now. I think that I either heard a roach dying or a Nidus Swarm going down. One of the two. We'll start to see if a swarm of units that pops out on the other side of the map, but right now, Erik is looking to be in a pretty decent spot because a lot of the units for Cham just aren't out just yet. Nidus Worm now going up inside the main base of Cham, and Erik is looking to put on a little bit more aggression as the Ultra's Cavern has finished up for Cham. We'll see what he can make use of it. He doesn't have any Ultras on the way, though. And here we go. Nidus Worm finishes up. He's going into the main base. He's going to be able to take out a Queen. Going to be able to take out some of these Hydrals and Roaches that are popping out and at least shut down a bit of that production. I don't know if he's going to be able to do a whole lot more damage, though, but he's still continuing the aggression on the front. So even though the entire army for Cham does pull back into the main base to deal with this Nidus Worm, he's going to be able to defend most of his tech. He may end up losing this 4th expansion if these roaches start unidling. They could go for that 4th expansion. It's completely free reign. A lot of the Mutals kind of sacrificing themselves. I'm not sure if that's intentional or not. He does end up freeing up quite a bit of supply, but looks like the Nidus Worm gets cleaned up, and Cham is not, Cham does manage to defend relatively okay at both locations. He keeps his 4th expansion alive, and even though he ends up losing a lot of his army, he's still sitting even on army, and he has his Ultralis Cavern finished up. Where is that Ultralis Cavern? Ultralis Cavern finished. Oh wait, okay, that's Ultralis Cavern for wait a second. Okay, did I misread the production tab? It looks like Cham is the one, or sorry, Erik is the one with the Ultralis Cavern finished up. Yeah, I think I'm forgetting things. All right, Cham has a bit of a difficult situation ahead of him. There are no Ultralis out on the map just yet, as Erik is just sticking around on Roach, Ravager, Hydra, Viper, which is still a pretty freaking scary composition to deal with. But Cham still has some of those lurkers out. If he can get Siege up in the next position, if he can deal with those Vipers, he can still make this work. A couple of Blinding Clouds actually working against Erik as he tries to engage a little bit too far forward and ends up taking a lot of losses to these lurkers. These lurkers are really getting the damage done, as you can see. We'll see if Erik can maybe even find an opportunity to push on in. He's really looking for an opportunity over here. But even the Spore Claw is making it a bit awkward, forcing those Vipers a little bit further back, making it harder for them to throw down those Blinding Clouds. But Spore Claws have mostly been taken out, and Cham gonna force this army back once again. This is becoming a bit of a stalemate. Corruptor's now coming out over here for Cham. As he has the double Spire out, he may look for a giant tech transition. He's getting out some Corruptors, maybe trying to deal with potential Broodlords, but also just trying to deal with some of those Vipers. If you can take out those Vipers, that is a really nice advantage. As well as also just taking out the Overseers. If you can take out the Overseers, suddenly there's no detection. Hey, if there's no detection, the Lurkers reign supreme. But this is, I feel like it's whatever advantage players had in this game has sort of evened out, and whoa. Cham is going for Swarm Hosts. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think these are the first Swarmos I've seen since like the beta of Legacy of the Void. These may be or at least the first Swarmos I've had the privilege of casting since the beta of Legacy of the Void. This is a little bit silly, and not just 1 or 2 Swarmos, it's 5 or 6 Swarmos. It's actually enough to start doing some damage to a base. I think that might be enough to maybe get a lucky snipe off on a base if they are close enough. Erik is trying to push in, and oh god, these blinding clouds are way too good for Cham to engage into. This is going to be a bit of a problem, and whoa, Davik101 subscribes. Thank you so much, Davik, adding to that subscriber count, the ridiculous subscriber count from earlier on. But Erik running by with some of these roaches, looking for an opportunity. He scouts out the Swarmos, which are oddly not the units that you want to chase after a roach run by. Whoa, the Swarmos actually, that was actually really cool. The Swarmos managed to stop the roaches from chasing after them as they unleash the eggs on top of the ramp, going for a bit of a wall on the ramp. This is cool. Not the way that you want to use Swarmos, though. You do not want to use Swarmos on this defensive. Oh god, the Swarmos are starting to get picked off. Oh, this is so awkward. So many Swarmos have been made. This is a questionable decision from Cham, as he's going to be up against Ultralisk pretty soon. Oh god, the Corruptors going for the pissing competition on that base, and they do win. It was a no competition. Erik is not about pissing competitions. He's going for the Ultralisk competition with a lot of these queens. And this is going to turn into a really, really weird situation where we have, I guess, swarm hosts with lurkers facing off against a queen Ultralisk army. Like, these are the primary strong units in both of these armies. But these Swarmos are in high enough numbers that they can actually engage against the Ultralisk, or at least prevent them from engaging. That's a really, really weird thought, isn't it? The fact that these Swarmos can stop an engagement for a while. And that's not something we've really seen. Oh god, the Corruptors also able to move across the map and get a cancel again on these bases. Corruptor's also so tanky that only one of them ends up falling. Another Corruptor very, very low on health and may end up falling very soon, but well, the Hydralisks are not chasing after those Corruptors anymore, and that does give Cham the opportunity to snipe off a base again. This is turning into a weird game. We're hitting at the 18-minute mark, and I don't even know what's going on anymore. Well, we have 19 queens out on the map, or 19 queens with this army right now. We have a couple of these Ultras, which, by the way, will cleave their way through these swarm hosts, locusts, with absolutely no problems. This is the problem, right? Sure, the swarm hosts will be able to trade free damage versus the Ultras, and maybe if they get all land at the same time, they can potentially get close to one-shotting an Ultralisk. Also, big shout-out, Maximus Black, the one and only, resubscribing for 13 months. What an absolute boss. Thank you so much, Maximus Black, for subscribing to Base Trade, or resubscribing to Base Trade TV. But okay, we're gonna see it, ladies and gentlemen. This is do or die here for Cham. He's already used his swarm host though, and are trying to do a bit of damage with these Corruptors on the other side of the map. Looks like the Hydrals will be able to clean that up, but this is it. Swarm hosts going down. They're gonna be able to push the Ultralisk back. A lot of transfuses still available in these Ultras. I don't see how the swarm hosts are gonna be able to be efficient. Look at this. Swarm hosts get absolutely massacred, and even with the spine crawl in, I feel like Ultras should be able to engage into that, right? I mean, where is the giant queen army for Cham? Oh god, blinding clouds go down in spades, and these Ultralisks murder that spine crawler line. This is not actually that close. Although the Ultralisks are starting to fall, you got to be very, very careful. He really needs to get those queens on top of that creep so he can start throwing down the transfuses. These transfuses, the immortal Ultralisks, start to cleave away. Even though the lurkers are doing some nice damage, they're actually splitting up the damage. That's a really nice thing about the lurkers, is that they can split up the damage across both the queens and the Ultras, but it is not quite enough. But here comes that next wave. These swarm hosts don't have to engage directly, so the queens are starting to run a bit lower on that transfuse energy. Oh god, the swarm hosts engaging in a very awkward position. Get their swarm hosts out of here. You want to keep those alive. And even though they aren't doing a massive amount of damage, I don't think there's any more transfuses left over. So if he can somehow find a way to trap in he's trapping in the Ultralisk with the Locusts. He gets a lot of them very, very low in health, but he doesn't quite manage to clean up. The queen count has also fallen quite heavily though for Erik. Queens, okay, look. Erik has enough hatcheries and he has enough minerals to reproduce queens. He can afford to lose those. And honestly, he has enough gas that he can afford to lose these Ultralisks. It's about the fact that Cham had to invest so much time and energy into defending that he has to do massive amounts of damage with things like these Corruptors. How does he make this work? Transfuses going down from some of these remaining queens at home. He didn't leave all the transfuses for those Ultras. Transfuses a couple of those hatcheries and says, no, these Corruptors have done enough. I feel like Cham needs to start up a Greater Spire. He needs to start thinking about Broodlords. Like, I don't see how else he makes this work. And even Broodlords, I don't know if it'll work versus the Ultras. They definitely will spaz out a lot. I mean, going back to just straight free units mentality, Broodlords and Swarmos, what are we in? Heart of the Swarm? But still, that may be what he needs, just because if he can continue to bug out the Ultralisk AI, if he can continue to maybe do damage to the oh, actually, whoa, these Swarmos, that was not even that many Swarmos. That actually managed to take out an Ultralisk pretty quickly. And that's what I'm saying. If he can get up to a ridiculously high number of free units and continuously produce the Broodlord Locust waves to prevent the Ultras from getting on top of these core units like the Swarm Hosts, get on top of the Spine Calls and everything else, then maybe, just maybe, Cham can find a way to deal with the Ultralisk Queen transition that so many Zerg players have been doing in the later stages of ZvZ. Whatever Cham decides to do, though, he's got to make it work. This is the winner's bracket, so of course, whoever loses this will fall to the loser's bracket. They're not knocked out of the tournament just yet, but still, Cham wants to bring this back. He wants to stay in that winner's bracket, and we got a lot of Vipers over here, a lot of Viper energy. Some of these Swarm Host Locusts doing some good damage, starting to whittle away at some of those transfuses that the Queens have, but Locusts are not going to be off of cooldown for a good bit of time. Still another 20-ish seconds. Cham is going to allow Erik to get into a nice position over here before the Swarmos get to come back. I think that there aren't that many lurkers around either. Ultralisk whittling away at those rocks, and this is another really awkward thing. Cham has a very immobile army with, you know, swarm hosts and lurkers and I guess, you know, spine crawlers and stuff as well. Like, it's not an army that can easily reposition, whereas, yeah, Queens aren't exactly the most mobile army units, but these Ultralisks can dart back and forth and really start to potentially at least force Cham to reposition very, very quickly. It becomes a very awkward situation. Spore Callers finishing up, but the Blinding Clouds go down in spades, as well as some Parasitic Bombs on top of these Corruptors, doing some nice damage over here. The Ultralisks are just tearing through everything. I don't think that the Swarmos are going to be coming out with the next wave of Locusts in time, although a lot of these Ultras are getting very far away from the Queens. The Ultras are starting to fall. There's only 2 or 3 of these Ultras now coming in from the backside, some more spawn. And even though I try to like say like this is pretty awesome, this is a really cool defense over here from Cham, he loses his bases. This is a very important mining base, and he makes it back to the remainder of his Queens. Sure, the majority of his transfuses are gone, but hey, guess what? So are those Locusts. Another 5 seconds for these Locust waves to come out. The Lurkers are doing some good damage. Actually, is there detection? Oh, there's no detection. All right, well, Cham holds on a little bit longer. Cham lives to free unit his way to hold another day. But I got it. It's the banks. 200 supply for Erik with a almost 10k bank, and you know, almost 3k gas bank. Versus Cham at 130 supply. He's got a mineral bank, but he does not have a gas bank right now. And he does not exactly have an economy either. I feel like this is the slow death. This is the last hurrah. This is the slow parade to falling into the losers bracket for Cham, unless he can make such a miraculously good engagement happen that he could just counter push across the map before Erik can remax. I don't know how this is gonna work though. That's a tall order. I'm like really trying to wrap my head around what can Cham do. He doesn't have a big gas bank. He doesn't even have a mineral bank actually anymore. He does have a lot of supply to give, and does he have a lot of larva? Oh, he has an okay amount of larva, but he really just wants to save it until he has enough gas to really start making those gas intensive units. I guess he can continue to populate his force with these spore crawlers, with these spine crawlers, and rely on lurkers, but the problem is, even if he takes the best engagement of his life, what army composition can Cham get right now, this moment, to take an engagement against this many Ultralists and not just die to the next wave of maxed out Ultralists? Or heck, at this point, do we have a Greater Spire out for Erik? Erik could make a Greater Spire if Ultralists end up being a problem at any point in this game. I mean, neither the Brood Lords nor the Swarm Hosts actually end up doing any damage versus opposing Brood Lords, so that might be an option. Alright, we got 2 Spires out for Cham. Neither of them are a Greater Spire. We got 1 Spire out for Erik, as well as a Greater Spire, so he is prepared to potentially move into Brood Lords if he wants to later on. Expansion gets shut down once again. Oh, things are looking grimmer and grimmer. Cham really needs an expansion. If he cannot defend this expansion, I'm actually gonna start saying, like, I don't see how Cham is gonna be able to continue to take this. We have a couple of Zerglings making their way in the main base, starting to do a little bit of damage. I like the small little counter harassment force. Maybe even 1 Ultralist could have actually done a lot of damage as well. Look at how many units for Cham. He pulls back. I mean, sure, Erik is moving down a ramp, but this is a lot of Ultralists, and the Queen Count still has a lot of energy. Blinding clouds going down everywhere. This might be the last hurrah. This might finally be it. I think that Cham is not going to be able to defend this, and with this, he doesn't have any more gas that's really being mined. There's no way that he can really recover from this unless he can defend this expansion, and I don't see how he defends this expansion. Okay, look, sure, there's no Overseers. I will give you that. The Lurkers will eventually kill an infinite number of units if there's no detection. He forces this back, but Cham is going to stick it out. Is he really going to stick it out? He's not mining gas from his 4th. He's not even mining gas from this base. Or sorry, 5th expansion, 4th expansion, 3rd expansion, main base, natural expansion. They're all mined out. He is only mining from 3 mineral patches. He has to establish this expansion, and even this expansion is starting to run a little bit on the lower side. Okay, if Erik shuts down the expansion one more time, if he takes out that army one more time, there's nothing for Cham. I feel like Cham has almost been relying on, and I hate to say this, but a little bit of, I don't even want to say miscontrol, because I know it's really, really hard to control, but just the fact that Erik keeps running all of his Overseers into this massive Spore Crawler army, and granted, it's not easy to keep your Spore Crawlers alive, or sorry, your Overseers alive against that many Spore Crawlers. I kind of feel like he's just been relying on that. And okay, I like this. Erik saying, okay, I got a massive mineral bank. Let me start doing some counter harassment. I'm going to start taking out your production facilities. Guess what actually really hurts to make right now? Production facilities. If he ends up taking out a Hydralisk den or the Lurker den, if he takes out the Hive, suddenly Cham doesn't have gas to spare to make those things. These are the things that are keeping Cham in the game, keeping Cham's minimal amounts of hopes up alive. He also ends up pulling back a lot of these units. Here we go. Overseers, stop running into the Spore Crawler mines. You got to keep them alive. Queen's also blocking the ramp. This is a bit of an awkward situation over here, but the drone count has been absolutely obliterated. That was one other thing that Cham really did need to be able to take this game. I think this is it, ladies and gentlemen. I think we're finally seeing it. I think Erik may have finally broken through. The free unit line, GG gets called, and Erik taking game number 2 and taking the series, moving on to that winner's semi-final match.